Now, I know there's loads of aggro Ira decks out there. You're running things like Rabble, you're running things like Scar. I don't like it. I know it's good. It's just not the way I play Ira. I used to play Ira like that back in the day. I had the most aggro Ira list ever. You can go back and find it on Finder's Library. It's just not the way I enjoy playing the deck. I think this deck is clean. I think this deck is fun to play, and I think this deck is good. And I would really recommend that you give it a go. Hello, it's me, Dan Tripp of Push the Point. I'm here on my own. I'm doing a deck tech for you today. But before we get stuck in, I just want to shout out the partner of Push the Point, Living Realms. We've been partnering with them now for a couple of months. If you are a Push the Point patron, you can get a 5% off purchases on their store. They're organizing the Calling Birmingham this year, so I highly encourage you to become a Push the Point patron, get that 5% discount, start getting the discounts on all of your Flesh and Blood cards and products, and other products as well. So shouting them out at the start, but let's get stuck straight in. I want to take you back. I want to take you back in time to some hazy days of 2021. This was February 2021, where me, Dan Tripp, won the first first ever UK skirmish. What hero did I win it with? I won it with Ira Crimson Haze, baby. Never change. Played a lot of Ira in the lead up to this tournament. Too much Ira, I would say. Look at this crazy deck. This isn't what we're going to be talking about today. Look at this. We had Drone back then. I was running one copy of Unmovable so I could actually beat Shin's Dory. What a beautiful time. No Exude. This was pre-crew? This is pre-crew. Yeah, this was... no, it can't be. There's fine center in the deck. This was crew. We had crew. We had Welcome to Wraith, Arcade, and crew. So, yeah, what a blast from the past. But believe it or not, I've still got it. I'm not washed. Officially not washed. I won a Blitz tournament in 2023. Push the Point member winning a tournament in 2023. What is happening? And I wanted to run through this deck because a few people have already asked, a few people are already interested, I should say. How does the deck play? How did you play it? Can you win with it? What are the good matchups? What are the bad matchups? It's Blitz. At the end of the day, you're doing stereotypical Ira things. Don't get too, whoa, he's doing something crazy. But there are some interesting tech options. Fun fact before we get stuck in the main deck, in the 40 card main deck, more than 25%, more than a quarter of the cards in this deck are from outsiders. So I'm putting all the new cards in and they're doing a good thing for me. So before we get stuck into the main deck, let's just go straight through the equipment loadout because there was actually a lot of choices. There's a lot of choices that went into what ended up in the equipment loadout. And the first one I want to start with is literally just breaking scales. A lot of people are running Shuko. That is the 2-block Blade Break. Your second attack with 2 base power. You play a turn, gets +1. Damage can't be prevented. Really tidy card. No hate on Shuko. I personally decided to run Breaking Scales for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I value the Battle Worn. There's a lot of dash knocking around, throwing things at you that force you to block with a card. And although we run snaps, we've got one card we can throw at it. I wanted to make sure I wasn't losing my Tunic or my Mask or not getting value on my Shuko block. So I thought, I'll take the Battle Worn. I also like having the Battle Worn on the Scales alongside the Battle Worn on the Breeze Rider boots. This allows you to create a 8-block really efficiently for Azalea. So you block with a Scales, a defense reaction, and a 3-block card from hand. So you get your defense reaction in the arsenal, you got your 3-block from hand, and you got your Scales. That's an 8-block. If they're often dominating a red in a ledger with a +3 buff, and then you've got it covered twice. You can obviously cover it with Shuko as well, but then you're not really getting value of your Shuko later. The great thing about Scales is you can shut down a disruptive card like that, and then you still get the +1 later in the game. So that's kind of what I was thinking. I no hate on Shuko. I think you can definitely fit Shuko into this deck. I'll make a suggestion on how to do that in a second. But I like it. It's a good option. Breaking Scales, you're pushing through damage, +1 damage. It's Blitz. It's a 20th of the opponent's health. It sounds like not very much, but it is a lot. and you know it's always on. They're always worried about it, or they just forget about it, and then you can win the game with it. I like cards that can win me the game. I like cards that don't front up the damage. That you see coming in for 4, they block for 4, you +1, then they're dead, or you draw a card from Mask. I like it. I like the card. Breaking Scare, Breeze Rider Boots. So this is a very new addition for me. I didn't normally run this card, and I put it in because of what I just said about Iyslander. I wanted another Battle Worn block for 1, so I can do that 8 breakpoint. I don't run snaps against Iyslander. I don't think I ran snaps on stream. I'd rather have the block, and you can put Breeze Rider Boots in quite a lot of matchups, and there's a good reason for that. When we go through the main deck, you'll see that there's actually only, I want to say off the top of my head, 4 relevant red cards that you can actually give go again with Snapdragon Scalers. You can obviously use snaps to give your blue combo cards go again, but you don't really want to be playing those out. And of course, you can also use Breeze Rider Boots to give those cards go again. So snaps is great, Snapdragon Scalers is great, but there aren't that many hits. And I'll talk about that when I get to Snapdragon Scalers. Find out Spring Tunic. There's no other real option here. Just run Tunic. I like to play a longer blitz game. I like to block. I like to draw out a blitz game, get value off my my good cards. So I'm not trying to end the game quickly. I will be blocking. I like the game to go long. I'll hopefully get two resources out of Tunic is kind of what I'm aiming for. If you're getting 2 resources out of your Tunic against an aggressive deck, things are going really well for you. You're not dead. And obviously against Oldhim and more controlling heroes, it's just nice to get that continual resource throughout the game. And it blocks for 1, never forget, it blocks for 1. Kadachi's really, really good, but I am going to talk about Needle in a second. I don't need to talk about Kadachi's. If you've played Ira, if you played Ninja, you know what Kadachi's do. You Kadachi for 1, you Kadachi for 2. It's basic Ira stuff, baby. You just do it every time. Mask of Momentum, there is some really cool things you can do with Mask of Many Faces, and I was playing a Katsu deck with Mask of Many Faces. It is a bonkers card. Not for Ira at the moment. Mask of Momentum is too good. If they're letting you draw off Mask, it's the best day of your life. But really, it's just there to force them to block with 1 card a turn. Or to block with armor, to use their armor up stupidly. That's what you want them to do. Right. Null Rune, it also blocks for 2. Also very relevant. Null Rune, Gloves, Hood, and Robe. I went for this Null Rune loadout. I do not know if this is correct. I actually think that this conscious choice to pick this Null Rune loadout probably makes your matchup into Iyslander a lot tougher, because you can't go Tunic, Null Rune 3. You could consider cutting either Breeze Rider Boots. I know this is crazy, but you could even consider cutting Snapdragon Scalers. I don't think you should do that, but you could consider cutting that card and putting in the Lantern, and then swap one of the other Null Runes for something else. But it's tough. I don't like it. I don't think I wish I had 1 more equipment slot. 100% 1 more equipment slot would be great, but everything else I want. So your Iyslander matchup is a bit worse, so you might want to experiment. If you've got a lot of Iyslander in your meta, honestly, this might not be the right deck for you. Just going to throw that out there now, but it's still good. If you've got a lot of Iyslander in your meta, you might want to change things up a little bit just to improve that matchup. See if you can fit Lantern in, so you can run Tunic, Lantern, and AB2, and maybe Mask on top of that. Snapdragon Scalers, right. Used to be a crazy card, still is a crazy card. Best card in the game. But it is no longer as important. The main thing you're using Snapdragons for, and the main reason to bring Snapdragons into the deck, is when you want to do something silly with Exude Confidence. So the matchups where you want to do that are Oldhim and Prism, like Iris Prism, right? Where they're running defense reactions. And any hero that's running defense reactions, right? Like Riptide, for example. What you want to be doing is just slamming Exude down on the table and saying what you want to do, right? Like, you want to overblock this, I snap it, I go crazy. You want to not block it, I boost it, I save my snaps for someone else. If you're not planning on doing something crazy with Exude, I think you run Breeze Rider Boots. And I know that's crazy because you lose the go again on E-Strike, but I think you have enough go again in the deck now that doesn't matter as much. You get a feel for it after a while. The 1 block on Breeze Rider Boots is so good. It's back when they forgot. Back when they were like, yeah, let's give Ninja Battle 1. That's thematic. They're never going to do that again. Never going to do that again. I don't think we'll ever. Prediction, we never get a Ninja, maybe. They probably printed one and I've forgotten it. But prediction, they never print a Ninja Equipment Battle 1 again. Because it's too good for Ninja, right? Too good for Ninja. And lastly, Zephyr Needle, man. Zephyr Needle is insane at the moment. In this deck, Zephyr, I honestly, And you don't main deck it against some heroes like Oldhim or heroes with lots of defense reactions, but it is so good. Even if you're coming up and you're like, well, they run 2 sinks but nothing else, I think you might actually run it, and that is crazy because there's so many ways now to buff Zephyr and also fetch Zephyr back. Oh, I'm sorry, not fetch Zephyr back, but when Zephyr breaks, to fetch back your second Kodachi from the sideboard. In the old days, you might have been, oh, maybe I shouldn't run Zephyr. Maybe I swap Zephyr for Lantern and then have a much better AB loadout. Run Zephyr. It's crazy. Just start running Zephyr. Just give it a go. Like, if you're playing in an armory, just start running it against heroes you wouldn't normally run it against. Obviously, don't run it against Oldhim. Obviously, don't run it against Briar, where they can non-attack block it. Run it against, like, Kasai. Run it against, like, Iyslander. Try it out against heroes where you don't have the best matchup at the moment, and just see what happens. And when you realize that, oh, wait a second, a 1-for-3 with go again, unconditional go again on a weapon is crazy. And then we'll talk about knives out in a minute. That's the equipment loadout. Mix and match it up, try different things. Like, this is what I settled on in the end because I sort of did a bit of a meta read. I wasn't expecting a lot of Iyslander, and there wasn't a lot of Iyslander. There was one, which I lost to. But it's up to you to make that meta call. I definitely switch this up. If everyone in your meta is playing Iyslander, go for it. I knew that we had a lot of Prism coming along. I knew my friend Jake was going to be there. I knew he was going to be either playing Iris Prism or Luminaris Prism, and he was going to eat Iyslander up. And you have to think about these things. You have to think, well, who's going to be at the tournament? What heroes do they normally play? What does that mean for Iyslander? If there's a bunch of Prism, Iyslander's in trouble. So, and it's really good for you because you love playing Prism. So playing against Prism, especially Iris Prism. Anyway, think about what matchups you're going to come up against. If you don't think you're going to need Breeze Riders too much, maybe get rid of Breeze Riders. If you don't think there's going to be any Oldhim or heroes where Exude is going to get value, maybe get rid of Snapdragons and put a Lantern in. Make your own decisions, right? This is a deck tech, but it's Ira, guys. Change things. That's the whole point of Ira. Swap things around. Try out what works for you. That's why Ira is such a great deck, because you can mix things up and you can make it your own. Right, main deck. Guys, it's the Majestic, expensive Majestics, apart from Exude, from the first, not first 3 sets, but first 4 sets. You got your 2 Command and Conquer, your 2 E-Strike, your 2 Exude. Command and Conquer is still good. Now, I know people are running Crown of Providence, but I didn't come across it that often, and I still think you want it. It's a big beat stick. It's really good against heroes that run defense reactions. It just comes out of nowhere sometimes, and people just hate it. With Ira, of course, you get that magical 7 power Command and Conquer. You keep command, you keep a blue, you go Kodachi Command and Conquer. The number of times that specific combination of cards has regained me so much tempo is incredible. It presents 8 damage in total. It presents a destruction of the arsenal. It's really good. Occasionally they've got defense reacts in hand. It's just incredibly awkward for them to block that 7, especially in the late game. So I think Command is here to stay. I'm not cutting it anytime soon, especially now that Prism is coming back into meta, because you just pop something, easy. E-Strike is actually quite an interesting card in this deck. So I found myself quite often using E-Strike to draw a card. I'm relatively happy these days about drawing a random card to arsenal it. In the old days, you didn't want to do that too often because there was a lot of blue cards in the deck that you struggled to get value out of if you drew into them. Now, you have a lot more blue cards where you can play them out. So obviously, all of your red cards, you're happy to draw those in arsenal. All of your yellow cards, you're happy to draw those in arsenal. And in this deck, only, I'm just going to count them, 2, 4, 6 of them, you're sad if you draw and have to arsenal. And I'll talk through that when we get to the blues. So E-Strike, draw a card, just good at, keeping a card in arsenal, keep pushing damage. Obviously, if you think that they're playing CNC, or if you think they got arsenal destruction, use it to come in for 7. I often use E-Strike for 7, or just use it to get go again against Prism. I'm talking about Prism a lot. I know Prism's not in everyone's meta, so I probably shouldn't focus on Prism too much, but getting that go again is nice. Exude. So Exude is incredible, in my personal opinion, because Oldhim is very prevalent, and a lot of the Oldhims are running a very fatiguey kind of Oldhim build. And essentially, you want to just pitch stack something like Exude, Razor, or Exude and a bunch of blues, and try and use that to push through a bunch of damage. Exude's also really good against the mirror. If they're running rainbow flick-flacks, Exude can literally just blow them up. I took the Exude out of my deck once. I got paired up against an Ira. They played an Exude Confidence, and I just was like, why did I take Exude out of my deck? It's so good in the mirror. And it's also really good against Kano. You know, obviously they can respond to the Exude being played, but if you just slam the Exude down, you know, Kano's another one where you want to run Snapdragon Scalers, so you can just slam Exude down on the table and just say to them, look, what do you want to do? You want to pop off? Because I could just kill you. If you don't, you know, if you don't pop off now, where I've got 3 cards in hand, where I can, you know, get really good value out of my AB. So I really like Exude. I think the buff is nice. Sometimes people, I know it's sad, but sometimes people don't quite understand how Exude works, and you attack for 4, and they're like, yeah, whatever, take the 4, and then you go, okay, pitch 3 blues, it's now coming in for 10. And then they take 10 damage, and then they're very sad, and then they always read Exude every time it's played against them for the rest of their lives. Exude is also just a 0 cost for 4, so you can keep it as the last card in your hand. If you're on the back foot, you're having to block a lot, you can just keep it as your last card, and then just throw it back out for 4, try and regain a bit of tempo, or try and get a bit of life total off them so you can start fighting back. So yeah, big fan of the card. It's really tidy for me. I'm trying to think of any other ways I use it. It's generally against the Oldhim matchup. You want to pitch an Exude and a Razor, or maybe a couple of Razors. I'm going to talk about this a bit more when I talk about give and take. Exude is a card that makes your opponent think too much. And I love cards that make my opponent think too much. They especially good players will look at Exude and they will overthink it. They will overthink it way too much. And like you've got nothing, right? You just throw it out there. You're like, I ain't got shit. But then they start, it gets in their heads. They're thinking, oh my God, Exude is coming in for 10. And it's like, and then they overblock it. And then you're like, okay, snaps, just Kadachi, hit you for 5 and you do that 8 damage. I love cards that make my opponent think a lot. Because firstly, they often make a mistake. And secondly, if they're thinking about that, they're not thinking about their own turn. You're taking brain power away from what they should be thinking about, which is how they're going to beat you. And a card like Exude and a future card I'm going to talk about in a minute also does that. Flick Flack. Okay, so controversial. We're down to just 2 Flick Flack. We are only running the reds. Honestly, I love the yellows. I love the blues. If you've got a lot of go wide heroes in your meta, consider bringing them back. But I just think defense reactions are too risky. There's so much Iyslander out there where they're not running any attacks. And I just think, and also just the 3 block of the yellow and the 2 block of the blue. And I know you can then combo it with get your 5 block, but if they just come in with 1 big attack, I just don't like it as much as they used to. We've taken defense reaction away to put in more attacks essentially, and I'm really happy with how that's playing out. However, 0 cost block 4 cards are great. Well, 0 cost because you can in a pinch pitch them to Kadachi. So if if you're stuck with a Flick Flack in hand, you can easily just pitch them, which is nice. If you have to, but they're great. There's a lot of heroes out there that are trying to put dangerous on hit effects on you, and just being able to cleanly block that is very satisfying. Flick Flack, of course, if the opponent is going wide, you can get incredible value. In my Ira Mirror, I shot down a Ravenous Rabble for 4 with a Flick Flack. They come in with another attack. I block that for 5, get full block value off that. I've just used 2 cards to block 9, and my hand is still good. Like, I've given up a blue and a card I want to block with, and I've left myself with an amazing, 3-card hand to then hit back really strong. And, they've taken a bunch of damage to do that big power turn, and I've essentially just prevented 9 of that damage and kept enough cards to do another power turn in return when they're on lower life. The yellows, the blues, I miss them, but I have the reds in alpha foil, so I'm never cutting the reds, guys. You got them in alpha, you got to keep them. Right, Finals Fighting Spirit. This was a card that a lot of people had questions about, and I will admit it was a very last minute inclusion. I was trying to decide what I wanted to improve my matchup against Prism, and also improve my matchup against aggro dash, because I knew there was a lot of aggro dash out there, and I knew there was a lot of Prism out there. I went with a red Finals Fighting Spirit, and actually this card did really well. And the reason why it did really well is because turns out just hitting people for 7 in Blitz is pretty good. Now, could you run the yellow? Probably. Could you run a different red that costs 3 and comes in for 7? Not sure. I like Findels a lot. The heal is really cool. And in an Ira mirror, you block that second Kodachi, you heal. Against dash, you block something coming in for 5, and with this and another 3, and you heal. Against Oldhim, it's a really big card, so you swap your 1 card for 2 of theirs often with this one, or you get a big chunk of damage through, which is really nice against Oldhim. You're really trying to get damage through so you can actually kill them at the end of the game. I like this card a lot. I'm gonna keep it in for now. It's probably the first card on the list that you could consider cutting and swapping, I should say. So if you're not liking it, that's fine. Personally, I'm a big fan. We have a lot of Prism in our meta. I have a lot of heroes where I just want to whack them really hard. I just want to push through a lot of damage. It's a good finisher. And obviously with a Tunic, you can go pitch a blue, Kodachi, this come in for 8, heal, which is, that's a kind of like a 10 damage off 2 cards. The blue, the Tunic resource. So yeah, have a think about it. Like, there are other options. I think another serious option you could consider would be Humble. I think Humble is kind of good in the meta right now if you don't have much dash, if you're coming up against a lot of Azuri. I know Azuri is getting very popular. Humble, I think, is really good. That's the one that takes away your opponent's hero ability. Yeah, hero ability. So consider that. It's also a good spot that you could put a raised face in if you like a raised face. Personally, I like the fact that Finals sort of pseudo blocks for 3, blocks for 2, heals for 1. That's why I put it in. Okay, the namesake of the deck, Give and Take. I actually think this card is pretty good. It's another Majestic. There's a lot of Majestics in this deck. So Give and Take. There's going to be some footage at some point which will show this deck in action. But essentially, Give and Take is a way of, having an infinite deck, sort of. A pseudo-infinite deck. So, you block with one or you play one out. And then with the second one, you try and fetch back the other one from the grave, and you can keep giving and taking. You keep recycling those 2 cards. So against Oldhim, against other heroes that are trying to fatigue you, you can actually fatigue them, which is kind of crazy. But I think it's also important not to lose sight of the fact it's another go again card, which is nice. You can make it have a breakpoint of 4, which is nice, and it blocks for 3, which is really nice. I love blocking. It's great. I love to block in Blitz. I block her in Blitz. Can you believe it? I just think it's cool. I think it's a great card. You can do fun stuff with it. You can fetch 100 wins from the grave. If you've got 100 wins in Arsenal, you want to set something big up. You can fetch a Cyclone Roundhouse if you've got the Spinning Wheel Kick in Arsenal, or vice versa. And as I said with Exude, it's another card that makes your opponent do stupid things. They are always blocking this for 4 with a Sink Blow, or they're blocking it with equipment. And it's like, I love cards that make your opponent be like, okay, he must be doing something crazy with Give and Take. I've got to blow my 4 block defense reaction on this 3 power card. I was misplaying this card a lot because I was putting it on the 4 breakpoint. I was letting them get value from that Sink, but that was a mistake. You should just be playing this card out for 3 and letting them use their Sink on it, and they're there being like, ha ha ha, I stopped you from getting a card into your deck. And you're like, in this matchup, who cares? It's going to end in 2 turns. You've just wasted a block, right? Like you've got rid of a defense reaction that blocks for 4, which is really clean against a lot of my cards. So yeah, really cool card, makes your opponents make mistakes. That's what I like in Blitz. Cards that make your opponents make mistakes. Okay. 100 wins. We're going to talk about all of these 6 together. I run Rainbow 100 wins. For a guy that's just been talking about how much he loves blocking, like, why have you got 6 cards in your deck that block for 2? I'd be like, ha ha ha, they block for 4. But yes, I know they don't really, because there's only 2 copies of Flip Flag left in the deck. 100 wins is really cool because it lets you go wide. Sometimes you want to go wide. And why not go wide with cards that buff each other? Why not go wide with cards that combo or Flick Flack? Why not go wide with cards that you can sort of set up for a big turn, so you can pitch stack them. So you could pitch stack your 100 wins for the late game against Oldhim and just go brup at them, which is great. And they also can be shuffled back in the deck with Winds of Eternity, which is really, really cool. A big part of 100 wins is Winds of Eternity. I should get that up because this, having so many copies of 100 wins essentially turns one of your blues into a 0 cost for 4, which is fantastic. We love 0 cost for 4s, and especially ones that pitch for 3. Because you have so many 100 wins in the deck, you can just Arsenal one, wait for your wins to come around, and just get really good value off this blue. The shuffle into deck is actually only really valuable in a fatigue matchup, like against Oldhim or Iris Prism. But you'd be surprised how many people are scared of you shuffling 100 wins into the deck. Like, they will sometimes block this weirdly and think that this is a fatigue matchup, and you're like, I didn't even want that card back in the deck. I didn't even want to shuffle my deck. So, remember that it is a shuffle. So if you are setting up a big combo turn, just make sure you don't accidentally mess it up. If you set up your Exude Razor, just be careful. You might want to pitch this and save that for later. So 100 wins is great because it's a 0 cost with Go Again, which evens out your curve quite a lot. So, you want to be pitching 1 blue every turn. You don't always want to be going Kodachi. If you've got 100 wins in hand, now you can go Kodachi 100 wins and you've still got 2 resources left. So you can play something like, you probably don't want to do Command and Conquer for 6. But, if you've got a blue, 100 wins and a Finder's Fighting Spirit, now you can go 100 wins for 3, Finder's Fighting Spirit for 8. It's kind of nice. It allows you to go Kodachi for 1, give and take for 4, 100 wins for 3, and then you've still got 1 resource left at the end to, hit them with something or play a Razor. That's the other thing, sorry. 100 wins is really good at reducing your resource cost by 1. So if you do want to play a Razor out, you've got the resources to do it. I'm a big fan of the cards, and I like running rainbow ones, and I have them in rainbow foil extended art, so why wouldn't I run it? Razor Reflex. Razor Reflex wins you the game. Why not? I've already mentioned it. Combo of Exude against Oldhim. Combo it with E-Strike for some fun turns. But ultimately, people fear the Razor. Kodachi for 1. And then what can they do, right? What can they do if they think you've got the Razor? Great card. I don't think there's anything better still than Razor in terms of any new or ninja-specific attack reactions. You just want to use it to push damage through and win your games. Sigil, really good against Wizard. It's always nice to have 26 health against a Kano or an Iyslander. You still draw this going first occasionally, and you just are the happiest person ever. You still draw this going second occasionally, and they don't attack you enough, so you're the happiest person ever. I think Sigil is fantastic in Blitz. You can even pitch it in a real pinch. I wouldn't recommend that, but you can. And there's nothing like arsenaling a Sigil, and then they CNC you, and then you just play the Sigil out, and you're very, very happy. It's a great card. I love Sigil in Blitz. Sink Below fixes hands, blocks for 4. It's good against heroes that want to dominate you, like Azalea. So yeah, that sounds fun. I think Sync is a must play at the moment. I think because I've cut the yellow Flick Flacks and the blue Flick Flacks, I really want at least 4 defense reactions to shut down fun stuff. It's good against Kasai. It's good against Dory too. Right, we have the mini combo of Spinning Wheel Kick and Cyclone Roundhouse. I got this combination off once at the skirmish, and it was one I had already won the game, and I had to force my opponent to let me put their boots in the arsenal. So does it come up very often? No. Is it good? Yes. So Cyclone Roundhouse could be Pounding Gale red. I personally found that in this deck, you have the resources. You tend to not mind with the 2 cost. And the yellow pitch is valuable against Iyslander, and it's valuable against Kano, and it's just nice to have a little bit of additional pitch in the deck. And I didn't find the cost to be prohibitive. If you're finding that you're having trouble playing this out, you could put Pounding Gale in instead. You could put what's the yellow kick card? The one that keeps coming back. I can't remember it. Comment below if you remember the yellow kick card that I'm trying to talk about. I used to run it. Don't chase the combo. That's the one thing I would tell you. Feel free to Arsenal Cyclone, but if the spinning doesn't come up, play it out, get some damage in. Don't feel like you against heroes where you're not going to get a huge amount of value off it. It is a really powerful combo in the late game, but you don't want to be holding on for this card for too long. Remember that it includes itself. So the way Cyclone Roundhouse works is Spinning Wheel Kick was the last attack it has at the beginning of the reaction step. Banish a random defending card from each chain link. That includes itself. So if you do get the combo off, this is a really awkward card to block. If they block with 2 cards, you banish one of them, you deal 2 damage, you give it +1 with Breaking Scales. It's great. But don't chase the combo. That's all I'm saying. Like I think, I've seen Ira decks with like Bonds and Descendant Gust Wave. The idea to get off a huge Bonds turn, it just doesn't align for me. It just never seems to align for me. Like I much prefer this because you can play both of these cards on their own. Well, you can play Spinning Wheel Kick on its own really easily, and you can pitch Cyclone Roundhouse. Against Kasai, I think it might be worth it to try and set up the combo if you can, because if you kill their boots, you're very happy. Against Prism, if they're using their boots a lot, maybe it's worth doing if you've got the space. Just bear in mind that if you do that, you might be not able to then finish with a Kodachi to kill an aura if they've got one. Remember, Cyclone Roundhouse, it does work with Breeze Rider boots, so you can give it go again. Another vote in favor of Breeze Rider boots. But yeah, really nice cards. But I think, I personally actually think this is the best. Feel free to swap Cyclone for, Pounding Gale or Hurricane Technique. Hurricane Technique, that was the other one. So Hurricane Technique, yeah, sure, maybe. I think this is good. High roll potential is always nice, especially high roll potential where the cards on their own are fine. I know a 2 for 5 is not good, but remember, it blocks for 5 with Flick Flack. Okay, those are the power cards. Well, or are they? There are some really spicy blues in this deck, and gone are the days of just stick all the blue combo cards in and forget about it. As old Ira, you just put all the blue combo cards in, you were like, yeah, I'm going to get my 5 block, my Flick Flacks, and I don't even care what, I don't even read the card. You put them down on the table, your opponent is like, oh, find center, I need to read that, it's got 5 lines of text on it, and you're like, dude, don't worry, it's just a blue combo card. The number of times I've said it's just a blue combo card, right? But actually you can do stuff. Yeah, we've got some blue cards that don't have combo on them, and they are incredible. So we'll start with Concealed Blade. It's a better lunging press. Okay, this card's really good against heroes where you're trying to get little bits of damage through, like Aldim, other controlling decks where you're just trying to chip them down. You're going to try and get as much damage on them, so you're getting them to the point where they actually have to stop blocking. I don't know, Aldim's always blocking, but heroes where you want them to stop blocking as soon as possible, where you're racing, this lets your blue deal an additional 1 damage. It is also very good with Zephyr. The way you can do it, and I did this in my Kasai matchup, is I went Kodachi for 1, and I think they block with their boots. And then I went Zephyr Needle for 3, and they're like, haha, I have the sink. They throw the sink down. I'm like, sad. Break the chain, send the Zephyr to the grave. Remember, you have to break the chain. Break the chain to send the Zephyr to the grave. Then I played a ninja card, and they're like, do a little block. I don't think they even blocked it, actually. Came in for 4. Concealed Blade, give it +1, deal an additional 1 damage, bring my second Kodachi back. Crazy. You can base, if the stars align, you can do crazy stuff like that, but it's your insurance package. You can bring that Kodachi back for the late game. And because you have so much go again, you have Give and Take, you have 100 Winds, you have Spinning Wheel Kick, you have E-Strike with go again. You can go without your second Kodachi for a really long time. Like if you lose your Zephyr and you're like, oh no, I'm screwed. You stop playing 100 Winds instead of your second Kodachi. Save that resource for something else. And then when the Concealed Blade comes round, you've got all these really little diddly attacks with 100 Winds where they probably don't want to block, or you come in for 3 and they just do a nice 3 block on it. You throw the Concealed Blade on it, you deal damage, you get your second Kodachi back. It's a really nice card. There's also a hidden benefit with this card. It is not an attack action. That is really good when you're against Kasai. It's a card you can use to block a Saber and not worry about the fact that you're buffing the Saber, right? That's how the Sabers work, or that's how Kasai works, that's how the Sabers work. So really nice in that respect. Allows you to block things. Hey, you know what it's really good for? Blocking Give and Take, because it's not an attack. It's not an action card, it's a reaction. So good. Crane Dance, full disclosure, Crane Dance was not in the list I played at the Skirmish. I wanted to have all foil for the my combo cards, and I couldn't find my foil Crane Dances, so I put my foil Fluster Fists instead. Crane Dance is strictly better because you can go Crane Dance, Find Center. I use Find Center as the example of the card they shouldn't read, even though it's the only one you can. Well, it's not the only one. It's one of the few that you actually can get off. You shouldn't be aiming to do that. Okay, if it comes up, sure. If you can do Crane Dance, Razor, Find Center, sure. Maybe you should. Just if you can, just be aware it can be a bit of a tempo loss because you're not pushing a huge amount of damage. You obviously get the Zen State token, so the Zen State token reduces 1 damage from all sources, which is amazing, which is amazing. But just remember, Find Center can now be blocked with equipment. That used to not be the case, and it was incredible. Now it can be blocked with equipment, and it is not so incredible. So just remember, if they still got a 2-block equipment lying around, they might just block it with Find Center, and then you break and scales it. No. So just remember, like, that they might be able to shut it down, and then you've used your on demand go again for nothing. But if you've not played Ira before, blue combo cards, they're there to pitch for Kodachis, they're there to block for 5 with Flick Flack, they're there to be a blue, they're there to be your pitch. But we have a brand new one. Why not put Dishonour in? This card could be Flusterfist if you don't have Dishonour. It serves exactly the same purpose as Flusterfist. You're not running bonds, and you're not running whatever combos into Flusterfist either. So it's exactly the same card. It's literally in there because I have 2 foil Dishonours. So I was like, foil it out, and it's a Majestic. Find Center, like we were just saying, you can use this combo off Crane Dance. I don't think that should ever be like your plan. It's just something that occasionally happens and you're very happy about it. It could be a good use of your Snapdragons if you've used your Exudes and your E-Strikes already. Reducing 1 damage is really good. This is really good against Iyslander. This is really good against heroes that go wide. It could be a game-winning play, but you need to make that call. You need to decide, is this use of my snaps or is this use of my Razor the game-winning play? Is the fact that I'm playing out a Crane Dance for 1 into a Find Center for 2 when I could be attacking for 7 with a red card instead, is that the game-winning play? So just remember, just remember, you can also pitch stack this for Lake with a Razor if you want to kill them, if they're really low health and you want to kill them. Knives Out. The card, this card is incredible. This card is incredible. It overperformed so much. And I think the reason for that is that it just pushes through a lot of little bits of damage that they're not expecting. And it's so good with Mask Momentum, right? There's a lot of heroes out there that have access to a 1-block or a 2-block equipment. And they use those equipment pieces to stop your chain. So they either block the first Kodachi, which is often right. It's not often right in this deck because of how much 100 wins there is. Or they block the second Kodachi. Against Prism, against Oldhim, where they've got a 1-block equipment, against Kasai, where they've got their boots. You could actually for 1, and they're like, mate, I'll block that for 1 every day of the week, and then you Knives Out, you push 1 damage through, and now your Kodachi is coming in for 3. Or your Zephyr is coming in for 4. So that's why this card is also incredible if you're running Zephyr, because now your Zephyr is not unbreakable, but now all of those heroes that, have the sync, and we're like, I'm going to get the sync value. Now they can't even break it with sync. They probably, they get good block value off the sync, sure, on a card that's potentially, they're potentially stopping the mask trigger with that. So that's good for them. But it's a really nice card. And it's a blue. It blocks 3. It's 0 cost. It's not an attack action, so you can block Kasai. I love it. And we're running 2 Flick Flacks, right? The days of blue combo cards. How useful are they now? We've got 2 Flick Flacks, right? How many blue combo cards do we need? Great card to pitch late game. Both this and Concealed Blade could be the card that you naturally pitch. You forget about it, right? You forget about it, you pitch it, you pay for your turn, you forget about it, comes back in the late game and wins you the game. Because you could actually for 1, they block for 1, and then they die. Brilliant. Lovely card. Lastly, wins. It's actually really good, and it's really important that you run this in this deck. So you might think, oh, it's a blue combo card. Who cares? Who cares? They all do the same thing. They don't. This is so good. It is a 0 cost for 4 damage. It's really good. And against Oldhim, this is a win con. You can deck out Oldhim. I almost decked out the opponent Oldhim, and if I'd come up against that Oldhim in the final, in the top 8, I would have tried to do it again. In unlimited time, I would have decked out that Oldhim and I would try to do it again, because what I would do is I would pitch stack 100 wins, and then I would try and get Winds of Eternity off, shuffle them all back in, keep on going. I'd give and take, I'd keep giving and taking them, back and back and back. And I would try and deck out that Oldhim. And you know what? I think I'd do it. Incidentally, not with this build, but I'm something like 10-1 against Oldhim now. I lost one Oldhim game at Pro Tour, so there you go. I lost the Oldhim game at Pro Tour when I was like 3-0 in the Blitz side event, so fair play. Since then, I've not lost to Oldhim with Ira. I'm very confident in the matchup because of the combination of 100 wins and Exude Razor. It's a really, really good card. Right, what is missing? What is missing? There's a few things that aren't here. We've already talked about the Flick Flacks. We've already talked about the fact that we're not running all of the, blue combo cards. And, because we're not running 6 Flick Flacks, we don't need the blue combo cards. And I think all you could really change is you could either make it more defensive or you could make it more aggressive. Now, I know there's loads of aggro Ira decks out there. You're running things like Rabble. You're running things like Scar. I don't like it. I know it's good. It's just not the way I play Ira. I used to play Ira I used to play Ira like that back in the day. I had the most aggro Ira list ever. You can go back and find it on Finals Library. It's just not the way I enjoy playing the deck. I think this deck is clean. I think this deck is fun to play, and I think this deck is good. And I would really recommend that you give it a go. What are the good matchups? It's pretty good into everything. Like, that sounds stupid. Like, it's not great into everything. It's consistent. Against aggro decks, you can block cleanly and push damage and, get them down low. You can run Zephyr. Against control decks, you can pitch 100 wins. You can do crazy stuff with Exude. I really like its matchup into Dash. Against Dash, you can just run Zephyr Needle for free. Like, if they're running a Sync Below in their Dash deck, their boosts are screwed against every other hero, so you just run Zephyr for free. And like I'd already said, who cares if they run a Sync Below? You just bring it back. Iyslander. Iyslander is hard. It's really tough. I think if you have a lot of Iyslander in your meta, you can definitely run Ira, but you need to think. Maybe Findel's goes, maybe something else goes, maybe more pitch comes in, maybe you think about some other options. If I knew there was a load of Iyslander in the meta, I would change things up. Few things though. Give and take. You can put a blue on the top of your deck. Bear that in mind. Also good against Kano. You don't have to put another give and take. You could stack the top of your deck with a blue. If you're coming up against Iyslander, you make sure you've always got that blue to attack with. Against Kano, you can push damage through really well with an early Exude and just try and kill them. You can do crazy things with Spinning Wheel Kick. Cyclone Roundhouse if you get it. You want to run Zephyr against Kano. You want to just push damage. You want to kill them as quickly as possible. It's tough. I think if you're running into Ice, if you're running into Kano, there's a world where you put Oasis Respite in this deck. Don't ask me which card to cut. I mean, the deck tech, of course I should tell you. I'd probably cut Findel's. I might put Oasis in instead of Findel's Fighting Spirit. Because you often have a Tunic resource spare. That's the thing I've noticed, is you're not desperate to use your Tunic resource. You just have to remember that if you are running Oasis, you need to think, I need that Tunic resource, otherwise my hand is so bricked against other matchups that aren't Iyslander and Kano. So you can fit it in, just consider remembering that you might need your Tunic resource for Oasis. But you can get good value off it, because then it's sort of like a 0 block 5, which is nice. So I think Oasis Respite is an option that you should consider. Right, I hope this has been helpful. I've run through it as quickly as I can. There is going to be some gameplay footage on Push the Point showing my matchup against Oldhim, which should be a fun one to go through. I definitely didn't play that match optimally, but that's what's going to make it fun. We're going to talk about what I did good, what I did wrong. There's going to be other videos on the Armory Knights who streamed the skirmish, and I'm going to be commentating a couple of those, talking about my plays again. Hopefully getting to go over that final against Jake. That was a fun game for me. So let's wrap it up there. If you have any questions about the deck, throw it down in the comments below. I will respond to every single comment that has a question about this deck. If you want to know more about the lines, more about the way I played it, just let me know. And with that, I'll call it off there, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.